This just coming in to the Situation Room in Virginia just a short while ago. A lawsuit filed by the state's NAACP against the governor, Tim Kaine. It charges that the state of Virginia simply failed to prepare for an unprecedented turnout in next Tuesday's election. Let's go to Virginia. Our battleground correspondent, Dan Lothian, is watching this story for us. What do they want to happen, Dan? What's going on?
Well, they have indeed filed this lawsuit, as you mentioned, because the NAACP believes that the state really has not done enough to get prepared for this unprecedented election, which is expected to be about 90% voter turnout. As you know, Wolf, already more than 5 million voters have registered here in the state of Virginia, and that's a record for the state. What the NAACP is asking for, in addition to many other things, they would love for the polls to be open an additional 2 hours in order to handle what's expected to be long lines. Additionally, they would like some of the voting machines to be reallocated so that there'll be enough machines in some of the areas where a lot of people are expected to show up. And in addition to that, they're asking the court to have the federal government step in and take over the election process. Now, I did get off the phone a few minutes ago with the communications director for Governor Tim Kaine, and she told me that indeed they had received this lawsuit. She said that the governor is very confident in the work that the State Board of Elections has done in hiring additional poll workers, election officials to be out on Election Day. Very confident that they're within the law in terms of how many machines they have versus how many voters they will have. So he does believe that there's been a lot of preparation done, that the State Board of Elections will be able to handle the high voter turnout on Election Day, again, which is expected to be about 90%. I'm also told that shortly we should be hearing more from the State Board of Elections. They'll be putting out a press release, Wolf.
It's interesting, you know, Virginia, as you know, Dan, they closed the polls in the state of Virginia relatively early, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's on the East Coast. A lot of states on the East Coast, they close their polls at 8 p.m., even 9 p.m. I guess a simple way out of this was simply let the polls stay open until 8 or 9. Give the folks out there another hour or two to vote. How difficult of a change would that be?
Well, the face of it, it doesn't appear that it will be that difficult. Again, we don't know if that is something that the State Board of Elections will entertain. We, of course, will be waiting to hear what they have to say on that. But indeed, Wolf, that could perhaps mitigate some of the problems because these long lines really are expected. We've been in Virginia now for a couple of weeks talking to elections officials in some of the biggest counties here in Virginia, and they tell us that they had problems in 2006. And so when you have 90% voter turnout, they expect very long lines.
What a story. All right. Thanks very much. Thanks, Dan Lothian. Thanks very much. Let's